By the time I reached the Cedar Vale council chamber, 140 people had already seen the promise I made to June Bell when I was 8. It filled the screen behind Adrian Pike, purple crayon, crooked letters, and 2 stick figures holding hands beneath the words. "When we get married, I'll never let them take your home." The town laughed at first. Then Adrian placed my mother's final bank transfer beside it. $18,000 sent to June 6 days before my mother died. The laughter stopped. June stood alone near the back wall, holding a yellow envelope against her chest. In less than 20 minutes, the council would vote on whether to remove Bell Orchard's agricultural protection and approve the access easement. Adrian's luxury development still needed. Adrian spoke in the careful voice men use when they want cruelty to sound responsible. "No one is suggesting Miss Bell planned this as a child," he said. "But decades of emotional access can create opportunities." Then he used the word that changed the room. Predatory. Former customers shifted away from June. My sister sat beside the estate lawyer, staring at the transfer as if it proved our mother had been manipulated. Adrian displayed an agreement carrying June's signature. According to it, she had accepted the money in exchange for surrendering her claim to the orchard. The council chair asked whether I wanted to speak. Every instinct told me to ask for more time. That was how I had handled my father's death, my mother's unanswered calls, and the last message June sent before I stopped answering. "Leave first. Explain later. Let silence look like dignity." June stepped forward and held out the envelope. My mother's handwriting was visible from across the chamber. "For Owen, when he finally decides to hear the whole story." Adrian's fingers tightened around the edge of his folder. "Where did you get the original?" No one had said the word original. A murmur moved through the chamber. June kept her eyes on me. "I kept it from you," she said. "That part is true." Adrian stepped toward her. "If you open that here, you destroy everyone your mother tried to protect." The council chair repeated my name. I could leave June alone with Adrian's story. Or I could open the envelope and learn why my mother paid her and whether the agreement surrendering her claim to Bell Orchard was the document she had actually signed. I walked toward her, not because of a promise written in purple crayon, because for once, I was tired of letting the wrong person control the room. The council chair raised one hand. "Mr. Mercer, do you intend to submit that envelope as evidence?" I had been back in Cedar Vale for 43 minutes. My suitcase was still in the trunk, and my mother's house key sat in my pocket beside a resignation letter no one here knew about. "I intend to read it first." Adrian gave a small laugh. "This is not a family reunion." "No," June said. "At family reunions, people usually pretend to be happy." A few people looked down. Her voice had not shaken, but her knuckles were white around the envelope. I stopped in front of her. "You had this the night my mother died?" "Yes." "Why didn't you call me?" "I did." The answer struck cleanly because it was true. Her name had lit my phone while I sat in a Chicago hotel bar listening to a client explain why grief was a poor reason to miss a quarterly review. I told myself I would call after the meeting. Then, after the flight, then when I had something useful to say. June turned the envelope over. The seal was broken. Adrian noticed me noticing. "She has had months to alter whatever is inside." June faced him. "You were worried it was the original before you knew what it was." His smile arrived late. Councilwoman Price leaned toward her microphone. "Mr. Pike, a poor choice of words," he said. The chair checked the clock. 14 minutes until the vote. June offered me the envelope again. I hesitated. Recognition crossed her face. She had seen me do this before at my father's funeral, after college. Every time staying required more courage than leaving. "You don't have to defend me," she said quietly. "But you do have to decide whether you want the truth." That was when I saw the brass key taped beneath the envelope flap. Small, old, stamped with the number 214. My mother kept a safe deposit box at Cedar Vale Savings. Box 214. I reached for the envelope. Adrian moved first. Not enough to touch it. Enough to make everyone see that he wanted to. The gavel struck. "Mr. Pike, step back." He obeyed, but his attention stayed on the key. I slid the envelope into my coat. "Delay the vote." The chair frowned. "On what grounds?" I faced the agreement on the screen. "On the grounds that the man asking you to trust that document is afraid of a key he claims not to recognize." No one laughed this time. The chair called a 30-minute recess. June turned toward the side door. I followed her into the corridor. She stopped beside a vending machine. Up close, The pale dust on her black dress was not flour. It was ash. What happened at the bakery? Someone burned the records room this morning. My hand closed around the envelope inside my coat. And the key? Your mother gave me two. June glanced through the glass panel at Adrian. One is in your pocket. Then she met my eyes. The other disappeared from my kitchen 3 nights ago. June pushed through the side exit before I could ask another question. Rain had darkened the courthouse steps, and the wind carried the smell of wet leaves from the square. She crossed the street without checking whether I followed. I did. Bell and Briar Bakery sat 2 blocks away, its front windows papered with council notices and a handwritten sign that said "Close due to smoke damage." Someone had drawn a heart beneath the words. Someone else had crossed it out. June unlocked the side door. The bakery smelled wrong. Under the cinnamon and old coffee was the bitter sting of burned paper. Black dust marked the tile near the back hallway. A plastic sheet covered the doorway to the records room. June removed her coat and hung it on a chair. Ash streaked one sleeve of her dress. You were here when it happened? I was upstairs. You live above the bakery? Since my mother got sick. That was 12 years ago. I knew because my mother had emailed me after June moved in. I had read the message between meetings and replied with a sentence about being glad she was helping. June went behind the counter and filled the kettle. You still take it black with 2 sugars? The question made my throat tighten. You remember. I remember things that stopped being useful. She said it without anger. That made it worse. My phone vibrated. Elise's name filled the screen. Don't open anything until the lawyer is present. A second message followed. June has had months to build a story. I turned the phone face down. June set 2 ceramic mugs on the counter. Your sister? Yes. She thinks I manipulated Ruth. Did you? The kettle clicked off. June measured coffee into the press before answering. Your mother was lonely. I was there. People can decide what that means. I asked what you did. I brought groceries, drove her to appointments, changed the furnace filter because she kept forgetting. Argued with her when she tried to climb a ladder after chemotherapy. The last word held me still. My mother had told me the cancer was controlled. She had said the appointments were routine. I had believed her because believing her required nothing from me. When did it come back? 14 months before she died. My hand rested against the edge of the counter. She never told me. She tried. I remembered 3 missed calls during a conference in Denver. A voicemail I deleted after hearing only, Owen, honey, call when you have time. I had not had time, or I had not wanted the kind of time she might need. June poured the coffee. She asked me not to force you home, she said. She said you would come if you were ready. And you agreed? At first. A delivery truck rattled past outside. June pushed 1 mug toward me. What changed? She got worse. The coffee steamed between us. June's thumb traced the chipped rim of her mug. I called you the night she was admitted for the last time. I know. You sent a message. In a meeting. Call tomorrow. 3 words. Efficient. Polite. Useless. I flew in the next morning. She died 40 minutes before you landed. I had known that too. Facts were easier when no one arranged them in the right order. The back hallway creaked as the plastic sheet shifted in the draft. When my father died, I was 17 and June was 16. She sat beside me on the hood of his truck until sunrise, while adults moved through our house carrying casseroles and saying things that sounded borrowed. 3 days later, she found me packing a duffel bag. I told her I was going to stay with an uncle. I made it to the bus station before she caught me. She stood in front of the door, soaked from running through the rain, and said, "If you leave tonight, you'll keep leaving every time it hurts." I told her she did not understand. Then I left anyway. College became an internship. The internship became Chicago. Chicago became a life built from glass offices via hotel loyalty points, and shirts returned from the cleaner with cardboard in the collars. At first, June called every Sunday, then once a month, then on birthdays. Eventually, she stopped leaving messages. I had told myself we grew apart. Sitting across from her now, I understood that phrase was often used by the person doing the walking. You should hate me, I said. June lifted one shoulder. Hate is expensive. I had payroll. A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Her mouth softened, but only briefly. You always did that, she said. What? Made me laugh right when I was trying to stay angry. I thought you said hate was too expensive. Anger has a payment plan. The old ease between us lasted 3 seconds. Then a piece of burned paper slid from beneath the plastic sheet and scraped across the floor. June set down her mug. I noticed her left hand trembling. "Were you hurt?" "No, that wasn't what I asked." She pressed the hand against her skirt. "Someone broke the upstairs window. I woke up when the alarm started. The hallway was full of smoke. My chair moved back before I realized I had stood." "Why didn't you tell the council?" "Adrian would say I did it myself." "That's insane." "It's useful." "That matters more." I reached for the yellow envelope inside my coat. June's expression changed. Not fear. Calculation. "You opened it," I said. "I broke the seal." "What did you remove?" "Nothing." "What did you read?" Enough to know Ruth was protecting more than the orchard. My phone vibrated again. This time it was an email from Adrian. "Resolution before recess ends. Owen, I understand this is emotional. If you confirm that the Mercer estate recognizes June's signed agreement, the council can conclude today without further damage to either family. I can also ensure the fire investigation remains discreet." There was an attachment waiting beneath his name. I did not open it. June saw his name on the screen. "He's giving you an exit. He thinks I'll take it. Will you?" The answer should have come quickly. My suitcase was in the car. Chicago had offered to renegotiate my resignation before I left. Elise wanted the estate settled. The council wanted a clean vote. Adrian had built a door large enough for me to walk through without admitting I was running. My thumb hovered over the email. June moved away from the counter. She did not ask me to stay. That made leaving easier. It also made it impossible. I locked the phone and placed it beside the mug. "1 cup," I said. Her gaze dropped to the coffee, then returned to me. "1 cup doesn't fix 16 years. I know. It doesn't make me innocent. I know that too." The trembling in her hand stopped. I took the brass key from the envelope and set it between us. "Tell me what my mother put in box 214. June did not reach for the key. She never put anything in it. The plastic sheet lifted again behind her. June stared toward the burned records room. I opened the envelope. Inside, beside the brass key, was a single folded page in my mother's handwriting. "Owen, the bank box is a decoy. June knows where I moved the records. Any agreement that does not include the orchard preservation schedule is incomplete. Staying long enough to hear the truth is not the same as forgiving it. Mom." I read the final line twice. She used the box to hide where the real records were moved. "The records were moved where?" I asked. June turned the brass key between 2 fingers. "Bell Orchard." The name carried a picture I had avoided for years. Apple trees climbing the hill behind June's childhood home, the old packing shed leaning toward the creek, and 2 children who believed purple crayon could make land permanent. "The vote resumes in 26 minutes. Then stop asking questions you can ask in the truck." She grabbed her coat. I followed her past a fire engine parked behind the bakery. The rear window above the kitchen was covered with plywood, and a black crescent stained the brick beneath it. My rental truck waited across the street. June climbed in and pressed her palm against the door when I took the first curve too fast. "You still drive like you're being chased." "I live in Chicago. That explains it. It doesn't excuse it." I slowed down. Bell Orchard lay 4 miles outside town, beyond the cemetery and the school where June and I had once sold fake marriage licenses at recess. She charged 50 cents. I drew the certificates. Smoke had left a faint mark near her hairline. Ash remained beneath one thumbnail. "Who knew the records had been moved?" I asked. "Your mother and me. The lawyer who drafted the preservation papers knew the plan, but not where Ruth moved the box." "Why not?" "Because Ruth trusted fewer people every week." The orchard gate appeared before I found an answer. A chain hung loose through the bars. June got out and lifted it away. It was locked this morning. Tire tracks cut through the mud beyond it. We drove uphill between bare rows. At the top stood the packing shed, a long wooden building with a rusted roof. One door was open. June reached for the handle before the truck stopped. I caught her wrist. "Wait." Her skin was cold. "If someone is inside, walking in first is not bravery." I didn't say it was. "What is it?" "Habit." She pulled free but let me enter first. The shed smelled of damp wood and fermented fruit. Sunlight cut through broken wall slats across conveyor belts that had not moved in a decade. Locker numbers ran along the far wall. 211. The door marked 214 stood open. The brass key remained in my hand. Inside sat a dented green cash box. Its lid had been forced upward near the lock. Empty. Beside the locker, our childhood heights were still cut into a support post. June at 10. Owen at 11. A final mark. Added years later. Carried only her name. I ran my thumb over it. You kept coming here. My family kept working here. And my mother? She came every Thursday after the foreclosure. She said owning the paper did not make the place hers. That sounded like Ruth. It also hurt in a way I had not expected. My mother had spent years protecting the place where June grew up while I sent her birthday flowers selected by an assistant. June bent beside the locker and picked up a broken alarm sensor. This was cut, not burned out. So whoever came knew the fire would keep everyone focused on the bakery. And knew exactly which door to open. June touched the bent metal. Ruth put the documents here 4 months ago. You saw them? I helped carry the box. What documents? The original deed, the preservation trust draft, property surveys, council correspondence. Anything showing Bell Orchard was never meant for private development. And you left them in a shed? It was locked and alarmed. Adrian controlled the bank board. Ruth stopped trusting the safe deposit box after he asked why she had rented one. Box 214 had been a decoy, its number reused where Adrian should not have expected it, except someone had. Brown grit covered the floor. Near the back wall, a strip of blue paper protruded beneath a pallet. June caught my shoulder. Gloves. She pulled 2 pairs of food service gloves from her coat. You carry those everywhere? I own a bakery being treated like a crime scene. The paper was part of a carbon copy receipt. Most of it had torn away, but one line remained. Received from Ruth Mercer. Original deed, preservation trust draft, and supporting exhibits. Below it was a date from 5 months earlier, and the initials, JB. You signed for the records. Yes. You said you helped carry the box. I did. That is not the same as accepting legal custody. No. She did not soften the answer. Were you the trustee? No. Was the orchard legally yours? Not yet. What does that mean? Ruth still held title. She was preparing a preservation trust that would return control to my family and keep the community kitchen on the land. To give you the orchard? To stop anyone from selling it out from under us. June wiped dust from a sorting table. My grandfather borrowed against the land when my mother got sick. The bank foreclosed. Ruth bought the orchard from the bank before Adrian's father could. My mother owned Bell Orchard? On paper. She said she was holding it until my family could reclaim it. And the 18,000? Her jaw tightened. Not here. You asked me to hear the whole story. I asked you to stay long enough to hear it. I did not promise every answer before the council reconvened. My phone showed 11 minutes. I photographed the receipt and locker, then sent both to the estate lawyer, copying a lease. A reply came immediately. Do not remove anything. Police are on the way. Then Elise. She signed for them. Owen, please stop letting her lead you. The sentence hurt because part of me agreed. June had signed for the records, kept my mother's envelope, and waited until public accusation forced her hand. Adrian's story was becoming less complete without making hers clean. A loose strip of wood tapped beneath the sorting table. Behind it, scratched into the underside, were 3 words. Check the weights. At the far end stood an iron platform scale. 4 round counterweights rested on its rack. One looked newer, its black paint unchipped. I lifted it. Too light. A seam circled the middle. June handed me a flat screwdriver. The weight separated into 2 hollow halves. Inside was a flash drive wrapped in wax paper. My mother's handwriting covered one side. Not the whole truth. Enough to start. June sat back on her heels. She never told me about that. I believed her. That frightened me more than disbelief would have. I connected the drive to the laptop in my truck. It held 1 audio file, recorded 9 days before my mother died. Her voice filled the cab, thinner than I remembered. This is Ruth Mercer. Adrian Pike brought June an agreement today and told her it would protect the orchard during probate. It will not. I watched him replace page 4 after June signed. June went still beside me. My mother continued. June does not know I saw him do it. Owen, if you are hearing this, do not make the mistake of thinking that means she told you everything. The recording clicked off. The evidence cleared June of knowingly surrendering the orchard. Then my mother's final sentence opened a deeper wound. What didn't you tell her? I asked. A siren sounded at the bottom of the hill. June removed one glove finger by finger. The $18,000 wasn't a gift, she said. The police car turned through the orchard gate. It was payment for something your mother made me promise never to tell you. The police reached the packing shed before June could explain what the money had purchased. Officer Lena Ortiz stepped out first, followed by a county fire investigator and a deputy carrying evidence bags. Lena had gone to school with us. Today she did not smile. Hands where I can see them. June placed hers on the truck hood. I raised mine, the flash drive still connected to my laptop. Adrian's story had arrived before we had. Lena read the complaint from her phone. Unlawful entry. Possible removal of estate records. Evidence tampering connected to the bakery fire. Who filed it? I asked. You know I can't answer that. June turned toward me. Owen. A warning, not comfort. The old version of me would have heard it as an invitation to stop. Be reasonable. Let a calmer person decide what truth was safe to say. I closed the laptop and handed Lena the flash drive. This was hidden inside that scale. Photograph the seam before you bag it. The investigator frowned. You touched it? With gloves. They're beside the pallet. Lena documented the cut alarm wire, tire tracks, locker, and receipt fragment. She did not arrest us, but nothing left with us. By the time we returned to town, the council had resumed. People filled the corridor outside the chamber. 2 reporters stood near the doors. Mara waited by the drinking fountain, flour on her jeans and anger in both hands. They posted the fire complaint online. June took Mara's phone. The headline read, Orchard claimant questioned at possible evidence site. Below it was a photograph of June with her hands on my truck while Lena spoke to her. No handcuffs were visible. The angle made them feel present anyway. Mara pointed at the screen. Tell me what to post. No, June said. He calls you a criminal. And we say nothing? We say what we can prove. The chamber doors opened. Elise came out with our estate lawyer, Martin Shaw. My sister's face had the bloodless look she wore when trying not to cry in public. You went to the orchard with her? There were records there. There was an empty box and your fingerprints. Martin lowered his voice. The council has provisionally admitted the agreement. Unless we produce a contradictory original, they can rely on the signed copy. We found a recording of Mom saying Adrian replaced page 4. Where is it? With the police. Elise gave a brittle laugh. Convenient. June absorbed the word without moving. Martin drew me aside. Do not mention the recording until it is authenticated. Do not accuse Pike of fraud. And do not let Miss Bell discuss the $18,000 without counsel. I don't have counsel, June said. That is exactly why you should not speak. Councilwoman Price called our names. Inside, Adrian had added the police photograph to the presentation. It appeared beside the childhood promise, the transfer, and June's signature. 3 images, 1 accusation. Chairman Lyle adjusted his microphone. Mr. Pike, you requested 5 additional minutes, only because the situation has changed. Adrian faced the audience. This morning, a fire destroyed records relevant to Miss Bell's claim. Hours later, she entered a second storage site with the heir to the Mercer estate. That location had also been breached. We reported it, I said, after entering without law enforcement, because the complaint was filed before anyone outside your circle could have known we were there. A murmur rose from the back rows. Martin touched my sleeve. Stop. Adrian waited until the sound faded. I understand Mr. Mercer is grieving. I also understand how persuasive an old emotional bond can be. He changed the slide. My resignation announcement appeared on the screen, dated 3 days earlier. He left his position abruptly. He returned without notifying the estate attorney. Within an hour, Miss Bell placed disputed documents in his hands. Now, June shifted forward. Martin spoke without turning. Don't. Adrian had built the trap carefully. If June explained the envelope, she would have to explain the payment. If she mentioned Ruth's secret, he would call it a dead woman's story. If she remained quiet, quiet would become guilt. He clicked again. An enlarged copy of the receipt fragment appeared. Received from Ruth Mercer. Original deed, preservation trust draft, and supporting exhibits. J.B. Miss Bell signed for the originals, Adrian said. Those records are now missing. Chairman Lyle addressed her. Did you accept custody of them? Yes. Do you know where they are? No. Did Ruth Mercer transfer $18,000 to you? June glanced at Martin. He gave the smallest shake of his head. She wanted to answer. Her thumb worked beneath the envelope flap. but any explanation would expose a promise Ruth had paid to keep. Yes, June said. The word landed harder than a speech. Mr. Hanley stood in the second row. He had bought bread from June every Tuesday since her grandmother ran the bakery. My wife donated to that community kitchen. June faced him. I know. Was any of it used for your claim? No. Adrian raised one hand. That is not what the financial records indicate. Mr. Hanley removed an order slip from his coat. Cancel Saturday. June stared at it. His granddaughter's wedding cake. I can refund the deposit. I don't want your money. He dropped the slip on the floor and walked out. My body wanted the familiar solution. Request a recess. Lower my voice. Promise cooperation. I had built a career helping frightened companies say less. I stood instead. The police have a recording made by my mother 9 days before she died. Adrian's jaw flexed. She says she watched Adrian replace a page after June signed. Chairman Lyle struck the gavel as voices broke across the chamber. Adrian turned to the council. An unauthenticated recording discovered by the two people who benefit from it cannot outweigh an executed agreement. Chairman Lyle called for order. The rezoning and access easement vote would be postponed for 72 hours. Bell Orchard's agricultural protection would remain in place. Relief reached me too soon. Pending investigation, June's community kitchen permit was suspended. No food could be prepared or distributed from the orchard property. The bakery's insurers would be notified of an active fraud inquiry. Mara made a sound behind us. The kitchen fed 43 families every week. Outside, cameras waited on the courthouse steps. Did you take money from a dying woman? A reporter called. Another voice followed. Were you involved with Owen before the transfer? June stopped, placed the yellow envelope in my hands, then crossed to an elderly woman beside a dented grocery cart. Mrs. Alvarez had come for the afternoon distribution. June removed the bakery key from her ring and gave it to Mara. Use the front shop. Only food we can document from today's inventory. The council suspended us, Mara said. They suspended the permit. They did not suspend hunger. Across the street, Mr. Hanley tore the wedding cake order in half and dropped it into a trash can. June watched him do it. Then, she faced the cameras. The promise from our childhood still glowed through the chamber windows behind Adrian. I had kept the rezoning vote from stripping Bell Orchard's protection for 72 hours. June had lost the town before we reached the steps. By 9 that night, the cameras had left the courthouse, but the bakery windows still reflected people slowing down to stare. Mara had turned the front shop into an unofficial food line. Paper bags covered the display counter, each marked with a family name. 2 volunteers carried soup through the side door. June stayed in the back kitchen. I found her kneeling beside the industrial mixer, with a screwdriver between her teeth. The machine had taken water during the fire response. Its side panel hung open, exposing damp wires and a belt powdered with soot. You should unplug that. She removed the screwdriver. It is unplugged. You should stop touching it. You sound like someone who has never had 43 loaves due before sunrise. Your permit is suspended. The bakery permit isn't. She turned back to the machine. The prep kitchen was barely wide enough for the mixer. 2 steel tables, and both of us pretending the courthouse had not happened. A single bulb hummed above the sink. The yellow envelope rested beside a tray of cooling rolls. I took off my coat. Move. June glanced over her shoulder. Do insurance executives repair mixers now? Former executives read warning labels. She moved anyway. The belt had slipped off its wheel. I reached inside, trying to guide it back into place. A torn metal edge caught the base of my thumb. Blood struck the flour on the floor in 3 bright drops. June was on her feet before I swore. Sink. It's shallow. Sink, Owen. I held my hand beneath cold water while she opened a first aid tin. She cleaned the cut, pressed gauze over it, then wrapped my palm with more care than the wound deserved. You always do that, she said. Bleed on bakery floors? Make yourself useful before anyone can ask whether you're okay. I leaned against the sink. And you turn every emergency into a task, so no one can ask what you did. The tape stopped halfway around my hand. Mara pushed through the door. Mrs. Alvarez took the last soup. We have 12 bags left for morning. June nodded. Put them in the front refrigerator. Mara noticed the bandage. Should I ask? No, we said together. She left. June finished the wrap and released my hand. The $18,000 replaced money Elise took from the orchard account. The mixer clicked as cooling metal settled inside it. What? Your mother kept an operating account for taxes, repairs, and the community kitchen. Elise had access while Ruth was sick. How much did she take? 18,000. Elise does not steal. She called it borrowing. When? Last winter. She was behind on her mortgage and had maxed out 2 cards. Adrian told her the orchard sale would cover everything before anyone reviewed the account. The image of my sister beside the estate lawyer returned. Pale face, rigid shoulders, eyes fixed on June. You knew, and you stood there while she called you a liar. Ruth made me promise not to expose her. Ruth is dead. June flinched. The sentence came out harder than I intended, but I did not take it back. She transferred the money to the bakery account. June said. It replaced what Elise took, because the next kitchen payment was due. Adrian drafted the receipt. He called it a temporary acknowledgement until the trust was corrected. The agreement on the screen. A version of it. Did you read what you signed? Yes. Did it say you were surrendering your claim? Not in those words. That was not my question. Her eyes dropped to the bandage. There was a sentence saying the payment resolved all financial interests connected to the orchard. And you signed it. Yes. Why? Payroll was due. Families were waiting for food. Your mother was dying. Elise was falling apart. And Adrian said the correction would be filed. That explains why you needed it. Why did you believe him? June set the tape down. I wanted to. She continued before I spoke. He was still my fiancé. He helped with permits and the first grant application. I knew he removed details when they complicated his version. I signed anyway. You covered for Elise. Yes. You let Adrian create a document you knew was incomplete. Yes. And you kept my mother's envelope for 6 months. Her throat moved. Yes. Was that Ruth's promise too? No. Then why? June folded the loose end of the bandage against my palm, though it was already secure. Because I was angry. At me. At you. At her. At myself for still knowing how your voice would sound if you called. She stepped away. Ruth told me to mail it after the funeral. I addressed it. Then your office sent flowers with a typed card, and I put the envelope in my desk. I didn't have an assistant send them. Your office did. That distinction mattered more to you than it did to me. I had no defense worth offering. Part of me said I was protecting Elise. Part of me feared Adrian would intercept it. But another part wanted you to come home and discover there were consequences to being gone. You used my mother's last letter to punish me. I delayed it because I wanted you to hurt. The admission stayed between us without apology. I pushed away from the sink. June did not block the door. My coat hung over the chair. My keys were in the pocket. Chicago was 8 hours away, and distance had always been the argument I knew how to win. Instead, I picked up the yellow envelope. I want to believe you, I said, but not enough to lie for you. I'm not asking you to. If the police ask, I tell them you signed the receipt knowing it was incomplete. Yes. If Martin asks, I tell him you hid this because you were angry. Her face tightened, but she nodded. And if protecting the orchard means exposing Elise? June's hand closed around the table edge. Then we expose her. It cost her something to say it. That mattered. It erased nothing. The mixer belt still hung loose. I returned to it, using my uninjured hand. June held the flashlight while I guided the belt over the wheel. Our shoulders touched once, then remained close. When the belt settled, June reached past me to test the tension. Her cheek stopped inches from mine. Flour marked the bridge of her nose. Her fingers rested around my wrist, just above the bandage. Owen. The way she said my name held 16 years and one bad decision too many. I wanted to close the distance. That was why I stepped back. Not tonight. Her hand fell. Because you don't want this? Because I do. June turned off the flashlight. Not while I'm deciding whether trust can survive what you hid. And not while you need me to make the town believe you. Her eyes shone, but she did not ask me to change the answer. Fair. No. Necessary. She crossed to the office door, unlocked a drawer, and removed a printed email. I wrote this the night Ruth died. I never sent it. The message was addressed to me. Beneath it was a forwarded note from Adrian instructing June to sign the acknowledgement before the transfer could clear. One sentence had been highlighted. Do not mention Elise or the missing funds. Ruth wants this contained inside the family. At the bottom of June's unsent message were 6 words. Owen, please come home before he wins. She placed the pages beside the yellow envelope. I should have sent it. I read the forwarding header. Adrian's instruction had not come from his council account. It had come from my sister's email address. Martin Shaw read the email twice without sitting down. Elise stood beside his bookcase with both arms folded. June waited near the door because Martin had not invited her farther in. "This was sent from my account?" Elise asked. "The header says it was," I said. "I never wrote it." Martin set the pages on his desk. "That does not mean Mr. Pike wrote it. Accounts are compromised. Devices are shared." Elise turned on June. "Where did you get the printout?" "From Ruth." "You expect me to believe Mom was collecting my emails?" "I expect you to remember who had access to your laptop." Elise's mouth opened, then closed. Adrian had helped her refinance the house the previous winter. He had also prepared the orchard paperwork and organized Ruth's medical bills. Martin removed his glasses. "I am petitioning for a temporary freeze on the estate. No property sale, no distribution, no reimbursement." Elise gripped a chair. "My mortgage payment is Friday." The practical weight of $18,000 entered the office, not as a number, as my sister's house and the room where her 7-year-old son slept. "Elise, did you take the money?" "I moved it into your account. I was going to replace it after the sale." "Did Mom know?" "She would have understood." June's shoe shifted. Elise heard it. "Don't." June stayed near the door. "I didn't say anything. You didn't have to. You got to be there. You got to become the good daughter while Owen and I failed from different zip codes." Martin stepped between them. "Enough. Elise, gather your mortgage records. June, retain independent counsel. Owen, decide whether I represent the estate or protect you personally. I may not be able to do both." There it was, the first invoice for choosing the truth. By noon, the probate court froze the estate for 30 days. By 1, the development company threatened damages for delay. At 2:15, the bakery's insurer suspended business interruption payments. At 3, the bank froze the orchard operating account. The consequences spread beyond us. Mara called the dairy supplier and asked for 7 extra days. 2 volunteers offered to work without pay. June refused both offers and cut the pastry menu instead. Every solution removed something another person depended on. June received each piece of news behind the bakery counter while labeling soup containers. She rewrote the weekly menu. "We can use the front kitchen for 2 days," she told Mara. "After that, we need donated space." Mara stared at the calculator. "Payroll clears tomorrow. Mine doesn't. You already skipped last week." "Then I'm consistent." I took the calculator. June reached for it. "You are not paying it." "I'm checking the shortfall." "You were about to." She was right. Money had always been my cleanest apology. It required no patience. I set the calculator down. "What do you need that isn't a check?" "A refrigerated place to work. A lawyer I can afford. And 6 hours, when no one says predatory. I can find the first 2. The third is apparently premium service." Mara tried not to smile. My phone rang. "Grant Voss." I stepped into the alley. "Owen, I heard you're dealing with a family problem. It's not your concern. It becomes my concern when a former vice president is photographed at a fraud hearing. The partners will treat your resignation as leave." I resigned. "Come back tomorrow. We'll announce bereavement, give you 90 days, and keep your name off this mess." Through the open door, June carried 2 soup crates. Her shoulders dipped, but she kept moving. Grant lowered his voice. "You do not owe that town your career." He was right. That made the offer dangerous. "I'm not staying because I owe Cedar Vale anything." "Then why are you there?" "Because my mother's voice had survived inside a hollow iron weight. Because Elise called theft borrowing, and I called absence work. Those answers did not belong to Grant. I'm here because leaving is how I helped this happen. You have until 5. "I don't need until 5. I ended the call. The decision did not feel heroic. It felt expensive. My health insurance would end in 12 days. I would lose the relocation package. Breaking my Chicago lease cost 2 months' rent. I opened my banking app, then closed it before numbers could become courage. That evening, I moved out of my mother's house. Elise had placed my suitcase on the porch. "You froze everything," she said. "The court did. Because you asked Martin to investigate. Because Adrian used your email. You don't know that. I know you took the money." Her face crumpled, then hardened. "I needed help. Mom would have given it to me. Then you should have asked. She was dying, so you decided for her." The sentence struck both of us. I had decided Mom did not need to tell me the truth because I was busy. June had decided I did not need her letter because she was angry. Elise had decided Ruth would forgive a theft she never disclosed. Different choices, same arrogance. Elise opened the door. Stay somewhere else. The apartment above Alvarez Hardware had uneven floors, one narrow bed, and pipes that knocked whenever the downstairs sink ran. Mr. Alvarez gave me the key without requesting a deposit. Your mother paid my electric bill one winter, he said. This is not charity. It is late accounting. From the back window, I could see the bakery loading door. June stood beneath its light when I arrived, with the last box. She held 2 paper cups. I heard about the house. Cedar Vale remains efficient. She offered me one. I turned down Chicago. Her hand lowered. Because of me? No. The answer hurt her. It also let her breathe. I turned it down because going back would be another way to let someone else clean up what I refused to face. June watched steam lift from the lids. I'm not staying because of a promise I made at 8, and I'm not leaving my old life so you'll trust me. Good. If anything happens between us, it cannot be payment for what you lost, and I won't use you as proof that I've changed. June handed me the coffee. What does that leave? Work. That is not very romantic. It's the only honest thing I have tonight. She nodded toward the apartment. The community center has an unused kitchen. Their board chair owes Ruth a favor, but he won't answer my calls. I'll go in the morning. And the lawyer? Martin gave me 3 names. One takes reduced fee cases. June studied my bandaged hand. You don't get to become useful until you disappear again. Then don't grade me tonight. Probation? No. I held her gaze. Evidence. A truck turned into the alley and stopped beside the bakery. A process server stepped out carrying 2 envelopes. One was addressed to June. The other had my name on it. Adrian's company was suing her for interference with contract, and me for inducing it. The lawsuit was not the crisis. The crisis arrived at 8 the next morning, when a county judge signed an emergency order freezing Bell and Breyer's business account and barring June from entering Bell Orchard. Adrian's attorneys had attached 32 exhibits, photographs from the council chamber, the receipt bearing June's initials, the agreement with her signature, a sworn statement I had never seen. Martin spread the pages across the small table in my apartment. June stood by the window, still wearing the same sweater from the night before. Mara sat on the bed because there were only 2 chairs. I read the statement twice. I acknowledged that no oral promise, side agreement, family understanding, or competing claim exists concerning Bell Orchard. June's signature appeared above a notary seal. This is more than an incomplete receipt, I said. Yes. You swore there was no other agreement. Yes. While my mother was holding the land for your family. June kept both hands inside her sleeves. Adrian brought it to the hospital. He said the bank would not release the $18,000 without it. And you signed. I signed. Mara leaned forward. She was trying to keep the kitchen open. Stop helping, June said. Mara went quiet. I pushed the document across the table. You told me you signed a sentence resolving financial interests. You did not tell me it was sworn. I knew how it would sound. That is why you tell me. I know. The words carried no defense. They still did not repair the omission. Martin tapped another exhibit. Elise filed an affidavit last night. My sister stated that Ruth had become confused during her final months, that June controlled access to her appointments, and that Ruth sometimes signed papers she did not understand. She knows that isn't true, I said. Martin's expression remained careful. She knows Adrian's sale would release her inheritance. A video link beneath the affidavit opened automatically. Elise sat at her kitchen table, speaking to a local reporter. I love my brother, she said, but he came home in an emotional state and immediately attached himself to the one person who benefited from our mother's decline. Attached himself. The phrase made June step away from the window. The reporter asked whether June had isolated Ruth. Elise lowered her eyes before answering. I think my mother was encouraged to distrust her own family. Mara stood. I'm going over there. No, June said. She just called you a predator without using the word. She is scared. So are you. Being angry doesn't make either of us useful. Mara grabbed her coat and left hard enough to shake the door. Martin checked his watch. The injunction hearing is at 11. If the judge extends the order, the bakery account could remain frozen through discovery. Months, possibly longer. What about payroll? I asked. Not from that account. June's phone lit on the windowsill. 3 cancellations arrived within 1 minute. A retirement cake, a school breakfast order. The Saturday wedding Mr. Hanley had already withdrawn. Then the landlord emailed notice that any criminal charge tied to the fire would trigger the bakery's lease clause. No arrest had been made. The possibility was enough. At 10:45, we entered the courthouse through a side door. Adrian waited outside the courtroom with Elise. My sister held a paper cup in both hands. She did not meet mine. June stopped 6 feet away. Elise, did Adrian write the statement for you? Elise's fingers tightened around the cup. I wrote what I remember. That was not the question. Adrian moved between them. You should speak through counsel. June's mouth curved without humor. You always say that after someone uses your words. He smiled, but the smile arrived after everyone had seen his jaw tense. The hearing lasted 40 minutes. Adrian's attorney argued that June had hidden evidence, entered a compromised storage site, accepted money from a dying woman, and signed away any claim before reversing herself when development became profitable. Martin played only the authenticated opening of Ruth's recording. The judge allowed it provisionally but warned that the chain of custody would be challenged. Then Elise testified. She described Ruth forgetting an appointment and calling her by June's mother's name. One mistake became decline. Distance became isolation. June's daily care became access. When Martin asked about the missing $18,000, Elise's attorney objected on self-incrimination grounds. The judge sustained it. June had to sit still while my sister used legal protection to avoid the one fact that explained the transfer. I wanted to stand. Martin pressed one finger against the table. Not yet. The judge extended the injunction for 14 days. The bakery could operate only through a supervised account. Bell Orchard remained closed. June could not contact any witness listed by Adrian, including Elise. Cameras and microphones filled the courthouse entrance. Elise, I called. She kept walking. You know Mom was protecting you. That stopped her. Adrian touched her elbow. She pulled away from him, but she did not turn back to me. I needed one person to choose me, she said. June already had Mom. Now she has you. Then she crossed the street alone. Her words found the oldest weak place in me. Every choice had become a test of whom I loved more. My mother, or my work. Elise, or June. Truth, or family. Stay, or leave. June came down the steps beside me. You should go after her. I can't fix what she just did. No, but you can decide whether losing her is a price you are willing to pay. I turned on June. And when were you going to tell me about the sworn statement? Her face went still. When I found a way to explain it. That is what everyone keeps saying after they decide what I can handle. I was ashamed. So was I. I still came back. The sentence hurt her. I knew it before the last word left me. June nodded once. You did. She walked toward the bakery without asking me to follow. I returned to the apartment above the hardware store. My suitcase was still open from the move. It took less than 6 minutes to fill. 2 shirts, jeans, laptop, charger. The yellow envelope stayed on the table. Chicago had sent a final employment agreement at 9:03 that morning. The acceptance link expired at midnight. I opened it. Then I opened a message to June. I'm sorry. I thought I could help, but I'm making this worse. The sentence sounded polished, reasonable, exactly like every departure I had ever disguised as kindness. My thumb hovered above send. Across the alley, June entered the bakery office. Her shadow crossed the blinds. A moment later, her phone buzzed on my table. She had left it beside the legal papers. The preview showed Adrian's name. Give me the second key, and I can still stop the injunction. I set my phone down. June had told me one key was in the envelope. The other had disappeared from her kitchen 3 nights before the fire. Adrian had never heard that. The message changed before I could touch it, deleted by sender, but the preview remained on the locked screen. I photographed it with my phone, including the time. Then I noticed the suitcase reflected in the dark window. Packed, ready, waiting for me to repeat myself. I removed one shirt, then another. The apology remained unsent. Adrian thought the second key could stop the injunction, which meant it did not open a box. It opened something he had already used. At 6 the next morning, I took the photograph of Adrian's deleted message to Officer Ortiz. By 7:30, the county attorney had sent a preservation demand to his phone provider. At 8, Mr. Alvarez examined the brass key beneath the hardware store's work lamp. This is not a bank key, he said, pulling out a faded service ledger. I cut these for the orchard alarm system. Ruth ordered 2 copies after the keypad failed. The number stamped into the brass was not a locker number. It was the override code. Key 214 manually disabled the packing shed alarm. The system had recorded one override 3 nights before the bakery fire, 2:13 a.m., the same night the duplicate disappeared from June's kitchen. By noon, the council had reconvened. Adrian had requested the session. His attorneys wanted the rezoning and access easement vote completed before the court widened the fraud inquiry. 180 people filled the chamber. The purple crayon promise appeared on the screen again. When we get married, I'll never let them take your home. This time, no one laughed. June sat behind her attorney near the aisle. Mara occupied the seat beside her. Elise sat alone across the chamber, a legal pad untouched on her knees. Adrian stood at the front table with the confidence of a man who believed every damaged person in the building needed his version of events. Chairman Lyle called my name. Martin touched my arm. Answer only what they ask. I have spent most of my life doing that. I carried the yellow envelope to the witness table and remained standing. Adrian's attorney began with my resignation, delayed return, and renewed closeness with June. There is no relationship, I said. June's head lifted. The attorney smiled. You expect this council to believe you risked your inheritance, career, and sister's home for a childhood friend? I expect them to believe the truth even when it is less flattering than romance. He placed June's sworn statement on the screen. Did she conceal this from you? Yes. Did she hide your mother's envelope? Yes. Did she accept $18,000? Yes. Each answer tightened the crowd around her. Adrian leaned back. He thought I was helping him. The attorney spread his hands. Then what are we debating? I faced the council. Whether real mistakes can be arranged into a false story. No one interrupted. June signed a statement she should not have signed. She kept my mother's letter because part of her wanted me to suffer. My sister took money she had no right to take, and I stayed away long enough for all of them to decide what I could handle without asking me. Elise's pen rolled from her lap. Those facts are ugly, I continued. They are also not the story Adrian Pike sold this town. Adrian's attorney objected. Chairman Lyle overruled him. I placed the alarm report beside the envelope. The orchard system was manually disabled at 2:13 a.m., 3 nights before the bakery fire. The duplicate override key disappeared from June's kitchen that night. A second report confirmed that 214 matched the manual override key Mr. Alvarez had cut for Ruth. The key, the alarm log, and the timing of its disappearance formed a chain no one could dismiss as coincidence. I took out my phone. Yesterday, Mr. Pike sent June a message asking for the second key. He deleted it seconds later. The photograph appeared on the screen. Give me the second key, and I can still stop the injunction. Adrian stood. This is manufactured. Officer Ortiz rose from the back row. The provider preserved the original message and deletion record this morning. He turned toward June instead of the officer. You have no idea what you are exposing. There it was. Not denial. Fear. Chairman Lyle ordered him to sit. I connected my laptop to the chamber speakers. My mother's recorded voice filled the same space where Adrian had called June predatory. This is Ruth Mercer. Adrian Pike brought June an agreement today and told her it would protect the orchard during probate. It will not. I watched him replace page 4 after June signed. The recording ended before Ruth's warning about June. I could have stopped there. That would have made June cleaner. It would also have made me another person deciding which truth the audience could hear. I played the rest. Owen, if you are hearing this, do not make the mistake of thinking that means she told you everything. June closed her eyes. My mother knew Adrian altered the agreement. She also knew June had hidden things. She did not leave me a hero and a villain. She left me a responsibility. Adrian laughed once. You left your dying mother alone, and now you want moral authority because you found a recording? The attack landed because it was true. My fingers rested on the envelope. No. I met his eyes. I left her alone. That is mine. The chamber settled. But June did not steal my family's trust. I left it unattended. Elise covered her mouth. Adrian's chair scraped backward. You think confession makes you credible? No. Evidence does. Confession only keeps me from becoming you. His control broke. He pointed at June. She signed it. She took the money. She would have lost the orchard years ago if Ruth had not confused guilt with charity. June started to rise. I lifted one hand without turning toward her, not to silence her, to tell her I would finish my own sentence. A lie does not become true because it uses real mistakes. I faced the council again. June's signature is real. Page 4 is not. Elise's debt is real. Adrian's claim that June stole the money is not. My absence is real. His right to use it as proof of fraud is not. Chairman Lyle asked Elise whether she wished to amend her affidavit. She stood slowly. Adrian drafted it. Her voice barely carried. He told me the sale was the only way to keep my house. He had my email password because he handled the refinancing. I let him send messages from my account. Adrian turned on her. You asked me to fix this. I asked for help. You asked me to make sure June did not take everything. Elise flinched. He heard himself too late. Councilwoman Price asked, Take everything from whom, Mr. Pike? From the Mercer estate. The orchard was not part of the Mercer inheritance. Ruth had reserved it for a preservation trust. It was collateral. He answered too fast. The public preservation filing had never described Bell Orchard as collateral. Only the missing bank history and supporting exhibits used that term. Martin leaned forward. How did you know that term appeared in the exhibits? Adrian stared at the screen, then at June, not with anger, but the look of a man discovering the person he controlled had survived without his permission. He reached for the yellow envelope. Officer Ortiz stepped between us. The council suspended the rezoning and access easement vote indefinitely and referred the agreement, fire, and missing records to the county prosecutor. The court would decide the injunction separately. No one declared June innocent. No one restored the bakery account that afternoon. The victory was smaller than applause. It was a pause in the machinery that had been crushing her. Outside, reporters crowded the steps. June remained inside with her attorney. I did not wait for her as though she were a prize at the end of a difficult day. I found Elise near the coat room, gathering the papers she had dropped. Are you going to expose the money? She asked. Yes. Her face folded. I may lose my house. I know. Can you live with that? No. I handed her the name of Martin's financial counselor. But I can live with not lying for you. Behind us, chamber workers removed the purple crayon promise from the screen. The wall went blank. For once, blank did not mean someone else had won the story. It meant we would have to write the next part without Adrian's words. 3 months later, the bakery still closed at 4 on Wednesdays. Not because business was slow, because every Wednesday afternoon, June met with a forensic accountant in the back office and signed another repayment document for the $18,000. The county had restored Bell and Breyer's operating account under supervision. The community kitchen reopened in the fellowship hall of Cedar Vale Methodist, where the ovens ran hot on one side and cold on the other. Mara learned to rotate trays halfway through every bake and complained with professional commitment. Bell Orchard retained its agricultural protection while the court reviewed the ownership records and preservation trust. Adrian had resigned from the council. The prosecutor had charged him with evidence tampering and unauthorized access to the alarm system, but the fire investigation was still open. People wanted a cleaner ending than that. They wanted handcuffs on the courthouse steps. June's name cleared in a headline, and every customer who had abandoned her to return, carrying an apology. Some came back. Some did not. Mr. Hanley ordered a birthday cake for his granddaughter, but never mentioned the wedding order he had torn in half. June accepted the deposit without making him earn forgiveness in public. Accepted, she told me after he left. Not erased. She kept the canceled order slip in the office drawer with the legal papers. Elise sold her car, entered a repayment agreement, and kept her house. She and I spoke every Sunday at 6. Some calls lasted 40 minutes, others ended after weather and groceries. She had not apologized to June. June had not asked her to. Repair moved slower when no one performed it for an audience. My apartment above the hardware store gained a second chair, then a coffee maker, then one of June's sweaters draped over the back of the chair, because she claimed my heating system was an argument against civilization. I did not move into the bakery apartment. June did not give me a key. We went to dinner. We argued. We took walks through the orchard, under court-approved supervision. Once, after a bad call with Elise, I packed half a suitcase before noticing what I was doing. I left it open on the bed all night. The next morning, June found it there. She did not unpack it for me. She sat in the second chair, handed me coffee, and said, "Choose your life, Owen, don't make me choose it for you. I put the shirts back in the drawer myself. That was as close as we came to a grand romantic declaration. The purple crayon promise disappeared from the bakery window in early November. I noticed the empty space while helping Mara hang a new menu. Where is it? June pointed toward the back wall. The old paper now hung beside the office door, away from the street and the people who had treated it like evidence. Purple crayon, crooked letters. Two stick figures holding hands beneath the words, "When we get married, I'll never let them take your home." Below the frame, June had added a smaller card in black ink. He stayed through one cup, then another. "You made an exhibit," I said. "A private one." You know, the first line still sounds like a proposal. It sounds like an 8-year-old boy with boundary issues. He had excellent instincts. He abandoned me for 16 years. He had inconsistent follow-through. June tried not to smile. The mixer started in the kitchen, its repaired belt humming evenly. I flexed the hand she had bandaged that night. A pale line remained near my thumb. Some wounds stayed visible because the body was honest about what happened. June stepped beside me. "Do you regret coming home?" The easy answer would have been no. Easy answers had caused enough damage. "I regret how long it took." She nodded. "And you?" "I regret keeping the envelope." "Only the envelope?" Her shoulder touched mine. "No, that was all she offered. It was enough, because it was true." At closing time, rain began against the front windows. The sound brought back the courthouse, the burned records room, and June standing beside my truck with ash beneath her nails. My chest tightened before I could reason with it. June noticed. She did not ask whether I was fine. She turned the sign to closed, lowered half the lights, and set a ceramic mug in front of me. "Black coffee, 2 sugars. You staying until I finish the invoices?" she asked. I wrapped both hands around the mug. "Through this cup." Her mouth softened. Not a promise of forever, not a shortcut through the work we still owed each other. Just an honest measure of time. June lifted the coffee pot. "Then I'll make another." I caught her wrist before she turned away. Not to keep her there. To ask. She leaned down and kissed me once, slow and warm, with one hand braced against the table. When she pulled back, she left her forehead against mine. Outside, a car slowed near the bakery windows. My body expected another photograph, another accusation, another version of us shaped by someone watching from the street. The car continued through the rain. I still followed its taillights until they disappeared. June did not tell me to let it go. She sat across from me and opened the invoice book. The second chair scraped the floor. The old promise remained on the wall behind her, carrying both the boy who wrote it and the man who had failed it. I could not protect June's home by loving her. I could not repair my mother's last year by staying in Cedar Vale. I could only stop leaving every time the truth asked something costly of me. Sometimes that meant speaking. Sometimes it meant accepting that forgiveness had not arrived, and sometimes it meant sitting in a nearly empty bakery while the coffee cooled, listening to the woman across from me turn a page. Some people do not destroy you by shouting. They do it by writing a version of you that everyone else can believe. And sometimes, the person who helps you survive is not the one who fixes your life. It is the one who refuses to laugh, refuses to lie, and leaves you enough room to stand up for yourself. If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments. Have you ever had to fight for the truth of your own life? And if you want more stories like this, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.